Matt Bagheera,
Here.
Tim Knapp,
Here.
Josh Baker, Jody Eubank, Nikki Law,
Here.
Dana Mulder,
Zoom.
Ryan Bedini,
Here.
Amy Gillard. We have a new student representative, Ella Ruddy.
Hi, Ella.
Hi, Ella.
Welcome.
So Ella's going to learn all of what we do. Keep downtown happy. That's our goal. We can do it. You want a gorgeous thing like this? Of course we can. All right, first up will be the approval of our minutes from September. We all received them in the packet. Maybe I have any corrections or comments? If not, I motion to approve.
Second.
Vacant. Virginia is seconded. All in favor?
Hi.
Okay. And Jody's here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, in our public comment, we're introducing our new student rep. Ella has taken a seat at our table, will be with us for the school year. You're a junior. And you had a great, your application was great. Do you want to tell us why you have an interest in downtown Harbor Springs?
I just kind of wanted to learn more of like how all of our events and like different events were happening and how it all worked, I guess.
Great. You're going to learn a lot. Our next, actually our next event will be Ice Fest in February, which is great fun. Okay, welcome to the table. Paula, do you have any questions? Okay, now we move into our twice a year public information session.
Yes, all right. So. This is on a larger screen.
Director.
Okay.
Just so for Ella's information, because we have funding that comes from our government partners, by law, we are required to twice a year do an information session on what we're up to, how we're spending their money, our money. Also a great time, great way for us twice a year to recap where we are, where we're going.
Okay, welcome to our second annual public information meeting today, October 7th, 2021. Going to recap. It doesn't look like we have too many new faces, so I'll just briefly recap. The Harbor Springs Downtown Development Authority was created in 2012 by ordinance number 180 of the Harbor Springs City Council and set at ordinance of the Downtown Development Authority Act, Act number 197. This act has been amended to now Public Act 57 in 2018, but we still follow that act. The Harbor Springs developed a taxable increment financing plan in 2015, which ran through 2017. The TIF plan was then renewed in 2018 through 2022. And the TIF development plan describes cost, location, resources, and implementation of the public improvements that are projected to take place in the DDA district. The purpose of the Downtown Development Authority and PSD is to analyze the impact of economic changes and growth in the defined downtown district of the city of Harbor Springs, and to develop plans in coordination with the City Council and Planning Commission. The DDA PSD seek to address problems of economic decline, strengthen existing areas, and encourage new private developments in the downtown district of our community. They seek to accomplish this goal by providing the community with the necessary legal, monetary, and organization tools to revitalize the downtown district, either through public initiated project undertakings or in concert with privately motivated development projects. Our financing options for the DDA activities include tax increment financing. A community can capture property taxes which would have otherwise been paid to entities such as the community college and county. Millage, we are able to levy up to 2 mills for municipalities with populations of less than 1 million and up to 1 mill for municipalities with population over 1 million. We can levy a special assessment, have revenue bonds, revenues from property owners or property that is leased by the DDA, donations, grants to our DDA authority, and contributions from local units of government. Currently, the Harbor Springs DDA's revenue is comprised of special assessment. We receive $45,900 annually in special assessment. We have a TIF capture revenue that is projected for 2021 of $43,703.55. Our taxing authorities include Harbor Springs City, North Central Michigan College, and Lakeview Cemetery. This amount does not include the county TIF capture that they do not pay into at this point. Our event income is $8,500. Okay. Where we stand right now in our finances, we have for the 2021, $77,337 in so far, with expenditures of this year being $40,014.25. We are ending the year, or at this point, not ending the year, because we expected to have more money coming in through TIF capture for the summer taxes that should be still coming in. And that is our ending fund balance is $114,110.26. So our total revenue for a year is $100,200. You'll see on the budget, it says 200,000. That was that 100,000 that was put in there in the line item for the tree grate project that will be going back in December. Why is it so important that we need all of the capture that we receive? Well, when looking at other counties and other DDA cities, their total revenues in DDAs, their revenues are much higher than ours. Charlevoix's at $574,630, Boyd City's $387,469. Even East Jordan and St. Ignace, which are quite small, are still well over $200,000 more in revenue from their TIF captures. And so that's a chart showing that. So in 2018, we developed the plan for the TIF plan of proposed enhancements and projects to run through 2022. This is a kind of a recap of what was proposed in those projects and where we stand on those. The first being the wayfinding system within the DDA boundary would be implemented, and that was completed in 2019. We continue to still make updates to the wayfinding, and this year we did update all of the downtown directories, kiosks this summer of 2021, especially since we had so many changes in businesses. We have another project that we earmarked was a waterfront beautification project to be implemented that addresses waterfront aesthetics, public waterfront access, and facilities for recreation. That's currently in progress. We helped to raise money in 2020 for picnic tables in Marina Park. We assisted with the Marina Park Committee and the Marina Park Planning for 2021. And we can continue that. That is an area we can keep supporting. The next item was an existing vacant lot on 3rd Street, and that was completed. We asphalted that over, created that into a parking lot, and then went even further to look at that this year in 2021 to possibly be a paid lot. That was not, it did not end up becoming a paid lot, but we have done our due diligence on all of that. The Merchants Walkway is another project that we looked at, and we continue to look at that, looking at bids for at least the repairs to the safety, to the project and to the fountain, excuse me, and the walkway. Downtown holiday lighting. And that was also completed in 2018 on 3rd Street. We continue to maintain those lights and install new ones as needed, repairs, and we may be looking at that for Main Street as we go forward, as becoming one of our projects as well. Improvement and replacement of downtown, the downtown lighting, and that is something else that has been looked into over the last few years, and we will continue to keep digging into that project. Provide administrative services for Downtown Development Authority, update plans, administrative assistance to the DDA board, its committees, and the City Harbor Spring staff. This is an ongoing project that we continue to do, and we will continue with that in the future. We also on the 2018 TIF plan was a parking study that was put on hold and is not being pursued at this point. So that's all right. And there was we developed a downtown promotional plan for events and marketing, and we have implemented the Winter Ice Fest, which has been extremely successful and helped to assist with other promotional campaigns like for the businesses and restaurants, such as Up to Snow Good, which hopefully this year we will be having, be able to do quite a bit more with that in 2021 than we did in 2020. Another arm was implement a business recruitment and retention program. We continue to work on these ideas. Develop and implement a downtown and enhancement grant program. And we received a grant from the Petoskey Harbor Springs Area Community Foundation in 2020. We continue to think about grants. We were looking into a grant possibility for the Merchants Walkway for those businesses that butt up to that to improve their areas. So we are continually looking at how we can participate with a grant program, either receiving or funding projects. And then the last one was provide additional snow removal and management for the downtown. That is not something we can currently take on here in the DDA. Original TIF plan. So these are some of the things we're looking at in the future: downtown lighting, tree grates, the Merchants Walkway. These are all things that we have thought about, we've delved into, and our current projects. In the summer of 2021, we maintained and planted the Main Street tree gardens with the help of volunteers in the National Honor Society, and they did a great job. And for a short-term project and solution, we may continue with that project. Harbor Springs Ice Fest from 2021, and we are moving forward with plans for another Ice Fest for 2022. We'd love to bring back the chili cook-off as possible, and it's a great event for the city and the community. We also work on website development, television and social media promotion of downtown businesses and events. That's an ongoing project for us. So, there's more pictures of things that we've helped with this summer with wayfinding and in the park and other downtown events. So that is where we are at this year up to this point.
Questions?
Have we gotten Tim's lights fixed?
Yes.
That tree that got whacked.
So we did the tree, they did come down and take the lights out, and that's in my update that we are pursuing that with their insurance. because it was pretty costly.
Margot, I had just a quick question.
Okay.
That was a great presentation, really nice, concise, to the point. On Merchants Walkway, we're going to get those quotes back, but are we also pursuing it, kicking it back to the city as more of an infrastructure, let's repair the sidewalks on the city's budget? I thought that's where we left off last time.
That was recommended at my update to city council, but it was also, but there's also, I don't know if the project is entirely gone. I've gotten some feedback, both from members of city council and other people, that they'd like to see us continue to keep looking into it.
Oh, they did?
Okay.
Even just repairing the areas that are damaged might encourage the property owners to have a little bit more excitement, which could elevate us into another step.
Yeah, I thought we had said though that maybe
We did.
Matt was talking about this too, about maybe the city would just, you know, take out the bricks and put in sidewalks, and it would become the city's responsibility.
And that would be the start. Just repairing the damaged areas would indeed help a lot with both safety and looks. So we're pursuing that, getting some bids right now on what that's going to cost to do the repairs. And then she and Margot and Victor can discuss how it's going to happen.
I kind of think we're spinning our wheels unless, you know, you do these things, it's obvious nobody's done anything with this over the last 20 some odd years. So I just think, from my position on this board, that if we put any amount of effort into this without any kind of feedback from the city of maintenance, we're wasting our
That's
time.
exactly where we are at the moment, talking
And
to the
it's,
city.
you know, it's fun to talk about all these things, but nobody gives a dang about it the last 20 years. Why should we put our effort into it now? Is
I agree.
how I feel about it.
At this point, my concern would be safety.
I'm not worried about safety because I don't,
Yeah.
you know,
okay.
if people aren't smart enough to pick up their feet, I don't know what else to do.
So how do we introduce this as a possible capital project for the city for next year, to tear out the bricks and just turn it into concrete?
A couple of ways. Once it was presented to council on Monday that it should be a city project, but until we have some idea on what it's going to cost to do the repairs, that's just kind of a.
But are we talking about concrete repairs? I think you guys were talking about brick repairs, right?
I was talking, let's just see what council wants to do. But once we get some idea what cost point, the budget conversations will not take place until late November. And then we can talk about that with the city.
Okay.
I agree with Brian.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that. Just, it's such unsightly at the moment.
And we could bring any proposal to city council, and I think that probably in many of our minds, no offense to Mayor Bagheera, but it seems like 9 out of 10 projects, changes, procedures, ordinances, whatever, 9 out of 10 times they're just turned down.
Well, I'd just like to see us follow through on this, like take the bricks out and let's just pave it. Like what's the next step to get council on board with that? Or, you know, whoever, maybe council doesn't even need to be involved. I just don't even know, but I hate to just leave it dangling, right?
We're not. There are efforts taking place. Marco's on it. And we'll update as we get some figures in as to how to pass this off to the city.
I think we brought it to the city's aware of it. They have a hierarchy of all the different things that need to be done. And I don't think right now this is probably on the top of that list. So I think the DDA brought it to the attention. It's unsightly and it's possible trip hazards, but you know, the boardwalk is also unsightly and possible death could occur. I mean, you know, so
Boardwalk in bad shape.
so either way, I think we did bring it to the city and we can go from there and look at other projects as well.
Is the boardwalk functional?
Barely,
It's functional,
barely,
But it's,
barely.
then maybe it can't, maybe it shouldn't be used if everybody's
there
really
was-
worried about
There
that.
was a survey done when Tom was still in office, because there was a little bit of an issue then, and Tom had done a survey with a safety person then, and then that's when they started, there was a proposal to have the boardwalk done. So the city had looked at it, and I know that it's a project that was on their radar at one
I think
point.
it's in one of
It's
the
in the- I think
forward
it's in the capital.
years. It's in the, it's in.
Yeah, I mean, it was in
It's
the,
a funding issue.
Yeah.
It's the same problem we have.
Yeah.
There's no money to do it. Some of the council members have taken a simple project and spun it into $1 million deal.
Yeah.
So it's, until we get new people on council that are not interested in spending other people's money, it'll just sit there. But structurally, it's fine. Lucas and the engineers have looked at it. And, you know, it gets a little slippery when it's wet. That's the nature of wood in the woods.
It is.
I believe that's being moved forward through Parks and Rec now. I think that's going to be under Rachel's purview, I guess.
Boy. Congrats.
Yes, you did.
All right, perfect.
So that is not ours. It is.
Right, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Moving on, Finance Committee update.
The finance committee met and talked over the different items that they had going on. Of that finance committee, we talked about, I think Margot did a great job going over the numbers in her presentation, so I won't repeat those. One of the trees did get taken care of. I do believe there's a tree out now as well, actually.
Another.
And then we were gonna check on how long those lights have been on there. I think we thought maybe 3 years. And the lifespan of the lights on those trees are 5 to 6 years, so we have some time yet. But we talked in the DDA meeting about budgeting the money to when they need to do that to have that money. So in a couple of years, kind of earmark some funds to replace those when that time comes from the DDA funds. Somebody told me that they were gonna turn the lights off on Third Street at night. I don't know if that's true or not. Has anybody heard anything about that? No?
That's what I was told.
So, anyway, a few people talked to me about that and they were not happy that they're gonna get turned off and even talked about trying to raise money to keep them on. But anyway, that's just what Margot was told at somebody that they're gonna turn them off, so,
Till holiday time.
until holiday time. So, I would imagine that there's gonna be a few emails going to city about that, because a lot of people like them. Just as a report, don't kill the messenger. We talked about revamping the trees and lights on Main Street as well as a possible project. One of the things that came out, I think the flower project was wonderful. There's a lot of time and energy involved in that project. Finding out that we were told we had water, and we really didn't have water, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that's a long-term solution, just because of the participation of people to be able to maintain that on this committee, unless we get people that want to do that. We talked about us possibly going back to the city and saying, hey, what about, but if we revamp, we have all the information, but now that we actually have some funds, actually doing a phased program and actually, kicking in $50,000 a year or whatever to try to get the tree grates and the trees done the way they should be. So we mentioned that that's a possibility. We talked about starting to make sure that we redo the TIF so we can continue with that. That's in Margot's camp, because there's a lot of things that has to hit to make sure that it does happen, as well as the special assessment. We also talked about the millage, but also decided that there are so many things going to be on that millage this year at this time that we probably shouldn't go about doing that. We talked about that Margot has not had a raise since she's been here.
Yeah, she has.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, yes, we did talk
Yeah.
about the city raise. So that's what we talked about. Not that she has it, but that she got the city raise. And we can have people continue to look at that to make sure she gets paid accordingly.
When was Margot's raise?
When?
Last. it was
December.
Whenever the city did it,
Yeah.
the whole city did the, what was it, the 3%?
We approved it in December, which was her 1-year anniversary.
That was a city raise, so do we want to consider a merit raise?
Yes, we can do that.
We can talk about that in the same time frame. I would think that we do if we did a raise in December, then I don't think we should do every raise every month. We probably should do it every year. And then look at the merit raise versus the other raise at the same time, is what I would recommend.
And we need to look at the budget for next year, sit down and talk about that at that time.
Yeah, and add that to our budgeting process.
What about instead of a merit raise, which will go through the city as a natural occurrence in December? What if we just talk about a merit bonus?
We can talk about that
Looking
in our
at-
budgeting. That's a good idea.
Good idea.
Looking at the ending fund balance and everything we've had our hands in, I think everyone's happy with Margot's performance. I know I am. I mean, I'd say something as simple as a $2,000 merit bonus for this ending of this fiscal year. Or
So-
this annual year.
Probably what, next month, November, we need to work on the budget for next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should do that over the budgeting process. And we do have to be cognizant of the other city employees. And I don't want to say, okay, we're going to give this to Margot because we like her, but we're not going, it's the whole thing about, I want to play nice with the city. So I don't want to make a lot of people mad. I think you're worth a lot more than you get paid, so don't take it in the wrong way. But I also want to make sure that we are cognizant of what the city is doing as well. I'm just nervous that we do that and then.
But we are in charge of Margot. I mean,
It is, but I also want to make sure that I think it's our relationship with the city is strained anyway. And I don't want to cause anything to make it worse. I'd like to get that better and work together.
Would it not be a good idea maybe to have Kathy or Tim call Victor and find out how this is handled with other employees? Do they?
No.
do
We
merit?
did this last year, so we do know that. But we need to do let's dive into this before we
can
get
dive.
into budget next year.
Yeah, I think we
next
dive
month.
into it, do it in the budget, and then we can actually do comparables to other directors in the area. I mean, I think there's a lot of research that we need to do before we just.
I agree. And that's easy to do.
Yeah, exactly. I think she's well worth it. I'm not trying to say anything in that. I just want to make sure that
We do it.
whatever we do, we can say on the 9 and 10 news and be happy about it.
Yes.
And then, we talked about promotion committee too. I have sponsor time. Do you remember what that was about?
I'm
Promotion.
assuming that promotions for Ice Fest, so sponsors, but we can move it to that.
Oh, yes.
That's,
Yeah.
that's really the only promotion that we have coming up.
One thing I wanted to bring up is Fall Fest that the Marina Park Committee and Parks and Rec put on was loads of fun, and we're planning to do it again next year. We just talked a little bit in our committee about is the Parks and Rec and department the best group to run this? So, this would be a possibility maybe to talk about for next year. Is like our DDA or the chamber a little more equipped to do a big event like that. Just keep it on the radar. Nothing really to talk about today, but yeah.
Okay.
In the first year, was there any revenue to be made at that?
No.
Or-
no.
It's more of a showcase the city kind of thing, I think.
Yes.
Right.
I drove by a couple times. It looked very well attended.
It was
looked like,
great.
I've heard
Very
people
much so.
talk great things about it. It's a great job. I mean,
It definitely helped our business. Can I ask what it costs to do that?
We had a budget of
Do you remember,
5.
Margot? I think the city gave us 3,000 and we spent like 1,500 or something. Was that right?
Deanna, Rachel's responding with the budget amount.
We had a budget of $5,000 to $6,000 and I think we spent just under $2,000.
Okay.
Good, we got a grant.
Actually, Rachel was successful in getting a grant through for, gosh, I think it bought a couple more cornhole boards and
Good.
some other stuff.
Cornhole's important.
Yeah, we bought 3 solo stoves too.
Yes.
Oh,
For the
good.
winter, so I
Good.
just.
Perfect.
And you got a lot of, you got things done.
So that's a committee report from the finance committee.
Okay.
And we will be out, I will be going to give a finance update to, once the new council is when budgeting time starts happening there. We'll be giving a DDA finance report.
What is that election day?
November 2nd.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
What happens if we actually don't get enough write-ins? What do they do?
We have enough writers, we have 4 candidates.
4 candidates.
Jody. We have 4
Four
candidates.
So they'll
Oh.
Who's
Or
the third
write-in.
one, Margot?
So they go for
Margaret Lacey?
themselves.
The 4 candidates are John Leo, John Cups, Matt Summers, and Maggie Lacey.
Okay.
So there'll at least be 2 of those that will be elevating.
And one interesting perspective, Jeff's on, I see, wrote a letter to the editor about the Headley override. But one thing that I've been thinking about that could be a good part of that is it could be another, I think we do need the Headley override, but it could be an alternate way to fund things, is where like the voters vote on specific projects. Like, you know, we want to do the downtown beautification, the tree grates. So that is a project and the voters decide on it. And we want to do the downtown lighting and we make it a project, a possible millage, and then the voters vote on it. So it could be an alternate way of getting things done other than everything having to come out of the general fund.
Council will have some great conversations.
And I don't know how I feel about all this yet, but I just, it has brought up an alternate, in my mind, an alternate way of doing things.
Yeah, I think if the Headley passes, the money won't be used for fund projects. It'll be used for infrastructure stuff for the city.
Needed, the stuff that we were kind of just talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
It'd be nice if we could do that, but I think if you want to do a millage for the tree lighting or the tree bases, you got to do that on your own. Or we'd have to do that as a DDA thing,
It would be, right?
get it on the
Should
ballot.
we explain to
So I
Ellen?
think it's ongoing with, you know, Victor and who's on council. I don't think it's going to be popular to put a millage out there. Victor just seems to have no appetite for it. But maybe
I think we already decided no on that.
with him.
Well, we've got our hands,
Hopefully his mind is eyes open about things and.
we have our hands full next year, 22, to complete the elements in our 5-year plan that we said we would dive into, while also next year doing all the legwork to renew a TIF at the beginning of the following year. So we've got a lot to get done, which is
I
gonna be
just
fun.
like it'd be really nice to bring some of these projects home. You know, we keep giving reports and we're still working on this and we're still working on this. I'd like to see us take an approach of let's pick 3 projects and just really do whatever follow-up and just bring
Well,
them
at the
home.
moment, I think I would like to see us dive into what we said we're going to do, so that when we go up for renewal at the end of year, we're ready to go. We've gotten derailed a couple times with extraordinary amount of time spent on the tree grates and the flower beds, which are wonderful things to have information on, which we've learned a lot, but we do need to dive in and finish what we said we would before we take on more with us or with council. Let's move next into the TIF updates, which is actually kind of what we're talking about.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to start with the letter that we received from the Attorney General's office, which I sent out to all of you. The Attorney General has let us know that they will not be making a formal opinion, that they did not want to get in between 2 municipalities, and that this was something that we need to figure out. So Victor spoke with Jim Raymer, our city attorney, to see, you know, what direction do we go now, knowing that. Jim Raymer did not recommend pursuing a lawsuit at this point, because he said that, one, it could be very costly to go after the city, and we're finally, you know, and I agree, we're reaching a point where our revenue is up, and we don't want to deplete that just in a costly lawsuit that could just go on. And he also mentioned that in the past, we have pursued a lawsuit with one of the townships, and we are continuing to still 2 decades later have bad blood and bad relationship with that township because of it. So his recommendation was that we renew the TIF as we would, including the county, that we make a, you know, all the things that we've talked about as far as making a good pitch to not only Harbor Springs, but the county of all the work that we're doing and the reasons why they need to be participating in the TIF. And then if they choose, once the TIF is rewritten which includes them, they do not allocate our capture, then look at how we proceed at that point for not whether it's lawsuit, whether it's, you know, how do we handle that situation in 2023 once we have the new TIF renewed. I did want to show you.
So basically, it's recommending you kick a can down the road and just pretend it's not a problem today.
Well, he said that there are some issues with the current TIF. I mean, that there are some issues with what happened between the former city manager, the former county administrator, that doesn't make it exactly just cut and dry either, as far as where a lawsuit would go. Now, that was his opinion. It would be more clear when we rewrite the TIF if they're not excluded. I think that gives us a little bit more grounds going forward, I think is what he's trying. I did show where we were when we started in 2018. Here's so our original base taxable value was $30,573,595, and you can see where we've gone up over the last 6 years, and with an increased value of $9 million and 97,000. This is what we're capturing. And then the top line is the Emmett County, and you can see the TIF capture, what we would have gotten, and that's where it got to the point. I mean, the number originally was so low that the lawsuits were, you know, it was kind of frivolous to have. We are now looking, obviously, going into 2020, 2021, it would have been nearly 40,000. And then 2022 over 40,000. And 2022 is just a projected because we couldn't, given that we have some of the projects are not done in town, like Rob Mossberg's Koch Company, building is not finished. This was just, Jeff Grimm gave me a very low estimate of, and Nick and I worked to see where we would be as far as what the increase would be for 2022. And that is where we're looking, and that's what our TIF capture is at, and then what the amount we're not collecting from the county.
So if we wait until it's rewritten, basically all of those numbers they don't mean anything anyway, because they're not ever gonna pay that.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
It would go back to zero.
So when Victor and I don't know if you remember, when Victor and I met with Mike Reeves, the county administrator last year, they had some stipulations on what to even consider. They had it in their mind already that they were not, willing to participate in the capture, and they wanted to stipulate what the money was spent on in Harbor Springs City, and they also wanted to put a cap on the amount that they would be willing to allow us to capture, which doesn't really go the way capture works.
It doesn't, and I don't see them participating in the future. They have decided that they don't want to, and the city has decided not to pursue it. So. I
Well,
think-
if you're looking at 44,000 in revenue from the Emmett County, imagine how much we would have to pay in legal fees to try to get $44,000 in revenue.
Well, you know, we could,
Well,
we don't go, I don't think we
potentially-
look back. That's over. I think going forward, if the end of this time next year, as we're presenting the TIF, they choose to not be a part of it, then council needs to have a conversation on what to do. It's not our decision. And it's, you know, it's a good relationship in many ways. We don't want to.
Oh, agree.
It's a good relationship unless you ask them for
Yeah.
the money that you're owed, and then they don't want anything to do with it.
Well,
So
I-
I think
They have
basically.
their own financial problems too. I mean,
I know,
they need
I know,
money
I
just
know.
as bad as we do. So
I know.
I mean, legally, they are obligated to do this and they've chosen not to, and we've
They
chosen
are.
to say, fine.
legally obligated to do it. They can opt out of the TIF,
No,
just
they
like
can't.
any of the people.
No one can opt out of the TIF.
Yes, they can. Yeah, that's why you have to go to them.
No, we don't. We changed that, Matt.
Well,
You changed that. They don't opt out. There's no opt-out option
all
anymore.
right.
We are like every other city in the state now where it's, you're in or not. So they cannot opt out.
Apparently they can.
Well, they think they can, and you left. That's your choice. But
All right, well,
That's
let's
where
get
we're
beyond that and move forward.
next year, we got a lot of work to do.
So the question is, if we were to hire an attorney and look back at getting the funds back from 2017, do we employ an attorney or do we pay Raymer by the hour?
He would not, he has already told us that he would not be the attorney of record on if we were to pursue an
Cost
outside.
to go after that money with an attorney would negate any gain over the next 10
Absolutely.
years.
Yeah,
So
you lose
this,
money on
I
it.
guess how I would look at this is we need to stop pretending that they're ever gonna
I
give
agree.
us the money.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can rewrite the TIF 100 different ways. They're broke. Their budgets are maxed. They know we're not gonna spend the money to go get them. So we need to just stop pretending
agree.
that money's gonna
And
ever
just make this a
materialize.
line
Quit
that
putting
we
it on
just
paper,
stop
quit talking
discussing.
about it. Just go forward with what we have because these
Honestly.
conversations go nowhere.
They're not.
Exactly.
The state's
I
already.
agree, but I think for next year, we need to work really hard, like starting next month on what we need to do to raise the assessment perhaps. We're providing a ton of services downtown and we haven't had an assessment in a long time.
A special assessment we have, that's in conjunction with the TIF. So next year, when we work on the TIF, we'll also be working on special assessment. They're the same time frame. So we got a lot of budget work to do for next year. And, you know, the TIF renewal process is there are a lot of steps required by law. It's not easy to just write it. And
DDA, Downtown Development Authority. And it's a worthless thing, I think. I'd like to see it go away.
Okay, that's your opinion. You were a wonderful member of us when you were here, Jeff. You had great information. I know you've changed your mind, but
I thought I was on mute.
Yeah, no, you aren't.
no, we just heard all that, Jeffy.
Thank you, though.
Okay,
Thank you.
and thank you for your past service here because you were a valuable member at the time.
Thank you.
Okay, let's,
At the time, I think is the key phrase.
Understand.
Mhm.
Mhm.
okay, let's move into our director update.
Yeah. So, just to finish that up, we are renewing in the fall of 2022. Nick and I will be working on that. And I think we need to have that renewal done by September of 2022. So
I agree.
we will be, I think that's when the deadline is. We will need to get that done.
Okay,
All right. So moving on, director's update.
He's not running for council, is he?
I wish he
Right,
was,
and it's for the paperwork.
but no, he won't do it. It cuts into his social schedule too much. traffic
Okay.
schedule.
All right, so director update. I gave an update on Monday, October 4th to the city council regarding the tree garden and the Merchants Walkway projects and gave them the presentation that I gave at the last DDA meeting. let them know our recommendations moving forward. They seemed to, I know Councilman Dyka definitely seemed that he liked the project. He wanted to see something going forward, and felt that if repairs or irrigation, things that needed to be made or addressed, trees, that they should be handled. And then I also did kind of hand over the Merchants Walkway. Since that time, I have been heard from a council person and a DDA person that maybe we want to at least continue a little bit looking at the bids for the repairs, and the council person did say that they hated to see us giving up the project. So that's where we are. I mean, obviously we know there's some safety issues, things that need to happen there. I can get the bids from the companies. I did not have much success during the summer when they were so busy, but I know Steve Sadison did get back to me, and at that point we were finished with it. And I said, no, don't bother coming down, but I can get him back and look at it for the Sadison paving and get just an estimate as far as what that's going to cost.
I mean, I think it would be a good idea to at least get, I mean, in my opinion, I don't think it would be a bad idea. I know that, I agree with Brian that it has been something that's been overlooked for the last 20 years, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to continue to be overlooked. If you go into other cities, Charlevoix has some really cool alleys. We were just in Marquette. They have some super cool spaces. We were in Illinois. They've utilized them as well. I don't think that it's a bad idea. And I know it's a big undertaking, and we've taken on a few big projects that have had trouble getting any footing. But there has to be grants out there. Other cities have put together these things as well. So maybe with some extra digging, and I don't think it would necessarily be a bad idea to at least get it moving and maybe come up with a plan that the city would be willing to, because it can't sit like that for another 20 years. I mean, there's things that have to be repaired in the city for the city to continue to look the way that it does, or we're just going to run into more problems along the way. So I would see about getting some estimates just to see if it is something that we can, even if it's slow. I mean, it doesn't have to be something that's completed in a season, but something to make it so it doesn't look so horrible. We did use it for Ice Fest one year and had a couple live carvings back there. So there are ways that it could be utilized for the city and the community. I mean, in every town that we've been in, Marquette, every alley was happening. It was fun.
Sure. And I agree, and as we discussed earlier, let's get some costs and then sit down with the city and see.
Yeah, because the city, I don't think can go forward if they don't have the costs, and there's capital,
Yes.
assessments that can be done as well. So,
and again, I think if perhaps with repairs, we can work better with the landowners to do their own part.
and the property owners have to step in as well. So I definitely agree with that aspect too, because the city can't fix it if the property owners aren't going to maintain it. So,
Well, our
I mean,
section
and
is,
obviously, I'm sorry, I didn't.
our section needs to be repaired. This other section, we can work with the property.
Yes.
owner.
We're talking about the area that
Guys, I think we should vote on this, because I thought, I just heard us say earlier that we shouldn't spend 1 cent of money on that if nobody's going to take care of it ongoing. So I think we've got kind of two schools of thought here, and maybe at our next meeting, we have more discussion and see.
Until we get some figures and know where the cities is with it, there's really not much to talk about. So we do have some homework to do between now and November, and we'll talk about it next month. I think that's the best way to do our homework. And Margaret and I talked about this a couple days ago, getting some bids in. So once we have some idea of where we're going with that, we can form a path.
And my only objection to it is not that I want that eyesore to stay that way. I certainly do not.
yeah.
It's always good. It's like it was done in the past. It was done and then forgotten. And I just think that's a catastrophic waste of taxpayer money. If you're going to spend money, maintain it and have that in the plan to do it.
I agree.
I agree. And I think
Because you end up with what you got, and you've got property owners that they want to park their cars. They don't want to pull their weeds. The people that are right there don't care. why should the rest of us?
And I agree with that as well.
And, you know, I think there's some great uses for that space, you know. Our sidewalks in the summer are way too cluttered. Okay, we've got bike racks everywhere. We get these god awful trash barrels that stink to high heaven on every corner.
And trees.
And we've got too many trees downtown, and you could utilize that space over there for bike racks,
Yep.
for a
Absolutely.
bunch of things that would open up the sidewalks. You know, I see people tripping on sidewalks every day during the summer. You know, you want to talk about a safety hazard. Those free floating metal bike racks are the dumbest thing I've ever seen the city put out. But it's completely unsafe. So I think if you want to do something there,
I
any
think,
use for it rather than just having a walkway. There's plenty of space back there.
I agree that, and that's exactly the point. There's so many things that could be done, but
well, there are some steps before we can talk about
Yes,
this. We need to
exactly.
see what costs might be. We need to see what the city's involvement might be.
exactly.
And then we need to look at the budget process both for us and for the city, which will all be happening next month.
Perfect.
So we're zeroing in on some answers that will direct us. Okay, what else you got in your report?
Just the Third Street tree, we, as I said earlier, a vehicle hit it. I'm working with Chief Knight. He got me the police report. And I need to talk to the people to see if they are filing an insurance claim, because if they're not, they need to, because just removing the lights cost us $1,000 to remove those lights. And then I don't know if there's any, as you said, we did prepare to one tree already. And I don't know.
That's how walking in a few weeks ago, I noticed half the tree was out.
Another, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have answers on that sometime soon. And then we're doing a plant pulling day.
Yes, so,
Wait, I'm sorry, can we back up for 2 seconds? Was this on private property?
Right away.
Right away.
yeah, and the tree has to come out too. And so Lucas spoke with the owner, the person who's building, or the tree is in front of their building, and they don't want that tree replaced. We took the lights out because the tree has to come out. The people don't want the tree replaced, because I don't know.
It was pretty heavily
I
whacked.
think, guys, I think that may need to go to tree board. We've had a number of requests like that, and it hasn't been handled quite that way.
There's another tree right next to that tree. I mean, it doesn't have lights on it, but there's a tree about the size of your arm that's, I think it was just a volunteer, but it's getting pretty big actually.
We had to cap the electric from that because the conduit was coming down. And I do know after talking to Lucas, because of the vegetation replacement and management plan, because the gas line and the conduit are there now, I'm not sure exactly what the rules are. There are different rules as far as putting a tree back in that spot because of the utilities that are there. So they may not even be allowed to be put a new tree back in that spot.
Can we let Margot figure this out with the insurance company, the city staff and the tree board?
Yeah, the tree board's the one that they
Yes.
planted a bunch of trees on
Yes.
Third Street too.
Okay.
I spoke with National Honor Society, and they have volunteers that would be willing to unplant the tree gardens with us on October 17th, Sunday, October 17th or October 24th. And I said we would let them know which date works best for us.
I don't
I'm
care.
good both days.
I am too.
What dates?
I'd be available.
I'm
Sunday,
available either day.
Sunday, October 17th or Sunday, October 24th.
Let's pick the 17th and then make the 24th a rain date.
I am not available the 24th. I'm on vacation.
So you might want to push it back to the 24th, because the 17th, that weekend's the biggest color tour weekend, and there's going to be a ton of people in town.
a very good point.
Okay.
Good idea.
No,
Thank you
you're
for
right.
that.
That weekend is
Let's do the
always
24th.
crazy.
Okay, thanks.
You really,
Can't
you
really
think
can
we'll
get on
go
Main Street at that
still-
time.
Still through the 17th?
Oh, sure.
We
did last
year.
Yeah.
If it's anything like last year.
First
Yeah,
three
good
weeks
point.
first 3 weeks of October are always.
Lucas says that once
Yeah.
we pull those, he can come Monday morning and have his guys just
Pick it up.
pick everything up.
Great.
So that is where we're at.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Do you have time for that?
She said, I will
Just email
email everybody,
everybody.
but I think she was asking like 1 o'clock on Sunday.
All right. Anything else for us as we move into other and old? And then public comment.
Well, I have, on other and old, I do have a couple of things.
Ah, good.
I didn't know you.
Other and old.
We are going to have an Ice Fest meeting coming up. We need to schedule that for the promotions committee to look at their schedules. I kind of waited, I tried to get one before this meeting, but with Festival of the Book and everything, it was pretty hairy. And so we're gonna start on that. We need to start working on Ice Fest. I know Kathy, you and I, and we talked about it in the last meeting, we want to look at doing a merchants meetup.
That needs to be done sometime.
In October.
Yes. We're losing people. They're not. So sometime in the next 2 weeks, we need to schedule that.
Jeff's got COVID.
All right, and then we will also have a downtown enhancement.
You need to have that sometime soon also, next week or two.
The promotions committee really needs to get started on the Ice Fest and also any other promotions. Like, Jody, will you be having Singo or anything this year?
It all depends on the state of COVID at the time. I don't know that many people are gonna be interested in being crammed in the lounge doing Singo.
Yeah.
To go about with Ice Fest and some of the indoor stuff too, but I think with Ice Fest, one thing maybe, Margot, you can reach out to Rock on Ice and at least maybe get
Good
their
idea.
thoughts processed so they can book us in for that date.
Absolutely.
And then we can just so they have us lined up, so then we can decide what we want to do.
We could do the, what did we do last year, Nikki, the widows widows,
You kicked off that weekend, yeah, you did single that day before ladies' night out. Or I think it was.
You did it in the big room,
Yeah,
in the dining room?
in the big room.
yeah. Yeah, let's find
Okay.
a time to do promotions committee and we can kind of discuss everything and see where we're at with, I can touch base about trivia and.
Okay. Anything else, Margot? All right, anything else?
Got a couple of things. Once upon a time, there was a 5-year plan of projects.
Once upon a time, we just went through it. Yeah,
Okay, so they're all done?
we just went through it.
I know, are they all done though? No, it was like a 2-page deal.
Well, yeah, you're right. That was a highlight.
Okay,
No, they're not all done.
okay. Are there any projects, easy, a simple project we could pick and get done before
That's in the
next
plan?
year? That's in the plan?
Exactly what we intend to do. You're right. Yeah, we just talked about that a little bit ago. We've got to focus on completing what's left in the
Right.
plan
Okay,
and not add new.
all right. Yeah, because I think that would look good for us as a DDA to
Absolutely.
get something done. And then also, the $1 a day or $1 a year thing we do. Maybe if we put some effort into, say, the snow removal this winter, we could up that amount to $2.
Okay.
People might be more enticed to pay a little bit more if they're getting something for their money. Because right now we're paying $1.
We can't change that until the time period runs out. Next year, we do both.
Yeah, but say if we did snow removal this winter, then next year when we go to them, we can say, hey, we did this for you guys. Let's do $2
Are you thinking, I guess, I'm just trying to picture what you're picturing, snow removal, just come, like having us either a contract or, because I know DPW wouldn't.
Right,
give
yeah,
us-
no, contracting with someone
contract
to
us.
come through and do a real job on snow removal.
One of the things that Margaret and I talked about earlier this week is where our obligations with the special assessment in relationship to our obligations in the TIF. And we could, for example, choose if there's any money left on the special assessment side. We absolutely cannot with the TIF side. That's completely in concrete. We can't deviate. A special assessment side, we could start some work on those trees the comments that were made at council the other night, and I spoke to Al afterwards also. Maybe we could use some of that money to start getting those trees out of there and pave over where we don't want them. The snow removal, it's, we've talked about it, it's in there. But yes, as we dive into budget next month, all of that needs to be outlined for next couple of months.
Another thing we did talk about, we have mentioned is, possibly participating with us doing the holiday lighting down on Main Street. Right now, that's costing the city quite a bit. And we continue to talk about.
And it is in our plan to do that. Yeah, good thoughts.
And then, is there a plan on any events for next year we could get started on? So we can
Ice
start
Fest.
planning and stuff beyond Ice Fest. I mean, that's.
Again, I would love to see, Brewfest come back if we can get some participation, and staffing and stuff is not as troublesome as it was for the wineries and cideries this year.
Right.
If I could have had the excitement that we had when we first brought it in, and they were excited, they wanted to participate, but like you just said, the first few weeks in October, they're slammed anyway, and they just didn't have the staff to be able to bring people to get away. And that was the biggest sole reason that I didn't want to continue that, was because every festival is going to be crammed. And if we had just like 7 beer options because we couldn't get any of the wineries and cideries to show up, the city and the people, the community would have just been pissed.
Right.
So
we could do a spring. I mean, there used to be the wine fest in town.
yeah, I mean,
Which
and
was a
that,
June
if we
event,
could
people have-
absolutely get people to participate, I would love to see that event come back. People love fall festivals. They love beer festivals in the fall. It was just,
Well, we don't need the business in.
Yeah, I was
I mean,
just gonna
it's
say, the
busy
problem
enough.
is the first 3 weekends,
Yeah.
literally till you hit Halloween, everybody's got a festival someplace.
Right.
And now we would be competing against ourselves on that first weekend. And the second weekend, most people are driving, bumper to bumper up to,
because it had always been historically the second weekend in October. And spring, yeah, we could absolutely do spring for sure too. And do something like with the wine fest. Spring, you're also, well, just like the fall, I guess we're just kind of waging on if we're gonna have like 20 inches of snow dumped on us in a weekend.
Not much snow in June.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, and no, and June wouldn't be necessarily a bad idea either, and we start getting busy where people are up in June, so that's, all things that we can absolutely talk about.
And that, as you dive into budget, that should be a conversation as well as just the general, when the new board takes seat here in January, just a discussion of whether this group wants to be about events or events and other, and we should always be about other things, infrastructure, helping our businesses, that kind of process.
Yep.
Well, I think that, that a lot of our problem right now is image, that we don't do anything for the downtown. That's why I say if we can do some stuff to promote ourselves, and I say snow removal, it doesn't have to be snow removal. It could be
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm just not
something
sure.
else. Bringing events to town, the car show's huge.
Well, I think
Maybe
that-
get a boat show next year.
Well, and I think we had a really
So I
good
think-
run of things going with Ice Fest and Up to Snow Good and Singo. We had a lot of stuff going on, and people started to know that the DDA was putting that on, but then COVID happened and we obviously couldn't do it, and hopefully,
Gotta pivot. Gotta pivot.
well, and yeah.
Well, we did pivot.
We
to a lot
did,
of
we
it.
just couldn't have anything because things were closed, and
And
we had capacity restrictions all last year.
Thomas Heath from Cinco was done online.
And he
Yeah,
did it
he did.
online,
He
and
did.
he did, and
Good.
And I donated, and some other downtown Harbor Springs businesses donated to keep, what it was going. So, and he's talked about it online, and him and I have been having conversations, but again, it's also dependent on if we're gonna be in a position come winter where we're gonna be able to do that and people are gonna be comfortable enough to go into it. 'cause
And we
the businesses
pivoted
are
wonderfully
putting-
with Ice Fest last year,
Right.
Yeah,
given what we did before and what last year was, it worked. It got people outside.
yeah, absolutely.
I just had one more idea that might not cost too much money is you see in other cities where they have brackets and banners on the light posts. And that might be a way of physically dressing up downtown, like we could have, something for winter, something for spring. We have the lights in the trees, but maybe it'd be fun to have some color on the lamppost too.
We have all.
I think we went through
we
that
did-
once.
Yeah, we did dive into that with a council a few years back. That has to be up to them to allow. The flags are still up on those posts. And they, at the time we presented, council said, no, they didn't want that kind of promotion hanging from the posts, but and also it's not in either of our plans, so we'd have to figure out how to pay for that. But council would have to sign off on it. I'm not sure they will.
Those brackets, if I remember too, were relatively expensive,
Yeah, they
something
were.
to the tune of like $350 a piece.
Yeah, plus the cost of the banners.
Well, and then the pier could ask for
Yes,
Thanksgiving dinner to be up there for a month or something along those lines, but we at length discussed that, and I think it came down to council didn't want all that hanging.
I mean, at some point, we might
Downtown.
want to look at, and we discussed this, the hanging flowers instead of those. Instead of if we get tree grades, we would do maybe hanging flowers.
I gotta run.
Okay. Anything else? Public comment? We are adjourned. We will have several meetings of committees in the next few weeks, and we'll see you back here on November 4th.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
For that next meeting,
That's bad.
I have
I
two things of sanitizer in my car.
No, they're probably ours.
There's
There's probably some buckets. Oh, come on.
450 pounds.
Yeah, just as a little FYI for the future, yeah. I guess, because he obviously didn't
Got some
know.
pros that
after that.
Can't get it. That's what they do.
Oh, I thought I was following you.
You are.
Nice job.
Oh, at the event.
Great. That Timmy.
Handsome.
Don't get his head